The NBA has a huge problem that's impossible to fix. If you like scoring, this is the NBA season for you. Players are scoring at an all-time high this season, and the stats back it up. So far this season, there have been 14 50-point games. To put that into perspective, last season across 82 games, we saw 19 50-point games. We're not even at the halfway point in the season, and we've already almost beat that. If it feels like we're watching a historic scoring performance almost every night, it's because we kind of are. Even if you go back just to the 2014-15 season and the 2015-16 season, they only had 14 50-point games combined. Here's a graph of the amount of 50-point games in relation to the amount of games played. For example, there are 1,230 games played in an 82-game season. For example, in the 14-15 season, there was 6 50-point games. So on average, every 205 games we saw a 50-point game. Throughout the past 10 years, this mark has slowly declined, as we've began to see more 50-point games every season. And with the amount of 50-point games this season, we now on average see a 50-point game every 40 games. We're now seeing 50-point games more than twice as often as we were just 6 years ago. There have been 89 40-point games this season. 40-point games have become so common that they are basically the norm now. 40 is the new 30. Between the NBA merger in 1976 and 2017, there was only one season with more than 100 40-point games. And from 2010 to 2016, the NBA averaged 49 40-point games every season. Since then, the league averages 123. The 89 40-point games this season, it makes it the 11th highest total in the league's 77 seasons. If we keep up this current pace, the league will finish with 190 40-point games this season. 48 more than any season has ever had. So far in January alone, there has been 8 40-point games. And this season, there is on average 2 40-point games for every 13 games played. The leaders for 40-point games this season are Giannis with 8, Luka with 8, and Embiid with 7. According to Basketball Reference's game score, this season has had 3 of the top 10 games of all time. This list includes Joel Embiid's 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, and 7 block game. It also includes Luka's 60-point, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists game, along with Donovan Mitchell's 71-point, 11 assists, and 8 rebound game, which is considered to be the 3rd best game in NBA history. This season, there are 43 players averaging 20 or more points a game, and 17 averaging 25 or more points a game. Let's go back 20 years and compare that to the 03-04 season, where there were just 17 players averaging over 20 points a game, and only 1 player averaging over 25 a game. Or even if we just take it back 10 years ago to the 12-13 season, in that season there was just 9 players averaging over 20 points a game, and 5 averaging over 25. There are 34 more players averaging over 20 points a game than there was 10 years ago. An event like dropping 50 points a game used to be a rarity just a decade ago, and now it's just common in the NBA. In the 12-13 season, only 3 players had 50-point games. And in the 90s, 80s, and 70s, the number of 50-point games every season was almost always in the single digits. But now in the past 4 seasons alone, there's an average of 20 50-point games in each season. But why? Why are players and teams scoring at a historic rate? Is it a lack of defense? Is the talent in the NBA at an all-time high? Are refs blowing their whistle too much? Well, the answer is complicated. This season, NBA teams have scored at least 130 points 76 times, at least 140 points 16 times, and an insane 150 points 3 times. In fact, the average NBA team has scored 113.8 points a game this year. That is the highest total since 1970. The pace of the game has sped up significantly. Teams have averaged nearly 100 possessions every 48 minutes in the past 5 seasons. This has also not been done since the 1980s. More possessions means more shots, which leads to more points for everyone. A lot of this offense has been driven by threes. In the 90s, teams made an average of 4 to 6 threes per game. 10 years ago, they made 7 a game. In 2018, the total passed 10 for the first time. And this season, the average is 12.2, off of 34.3 attempts. This season, 32 players attempt more than 6 threes a game. 36 attempt more than 7 a game, 17 attempt more than 8 a game, 7 attempt more than 9 a game, and 5 attempt more than 10 a game. In comparison to just last season when only 1 player attempted 10 a game. 20 years ago, there was just 1 player that attempted more than 7 a game and another player that attempted over 8 a game. 10 years ago, there was 10 players that attempted over 6 a game, and 1 that attempted over 7 a game. This really goes to show the evolution of the three-point shot. Season by season, the amount of players attempting threes goes up, and the amount they're attempting goes up too. But I think threes is only part of the reason for the scoring surge in the NBA recently. I think pace plays a huge role in it, along with the lack of defense. Steve Kerr would agree, as he said this earlier this week.
Sometimes the defense isn't great. Transition defense is an all-time low in this league. Every single night, a league pass, you see 5 guys standing there, somebody shoots, somebody runs long, and everyone goes, oh, the guy laying it up down there.
I think lack of defense plays a huge role in this increase in scoring, but I also think the amount of sheer talent in the league plays a part in this too. Here's a graph that shows you the type of shots players have been taking to score 50 points. And as you can see, the amount of points generated from threes this season has actually gone down. I think this provides a reasonable argument that what we're seeing is at least partially due to just talent. In the NBA today, we have more high volume scorers than we've ever had before, but we're also seeing more who don't just rely on threes for scoring. Players like Giannis, Luka, and Ja score a majority of their points in the paint or at the free throw line. But I want to know what you guys think. Is the increase in scoring due to a higher pace? Is the league just more talented than ever? Is it a lack of defense being played? Or is it a mix of all three? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, leave a like and subscribe.